Hi, I'm Kara. Welcome to Bright Hope Creations. Today the mice are baking up some Christmas cookies, and we're going to start with How You Been Christmas Cookie Add-on, and also the mice on ice, baked with love, and sprinkled with joy. And the dies I'm using are the Foursquare backdrop portrait in chili pepper cardstock and the squares in white, and the pivot pop-up mechanism and 2 panels in white. I'll white heat emboss the sentiment from Mice on Ice, and this is one that the mice trail onto the ice with their ice skates, but we're going to use it as frosting today, like piping. And so I'm prepping my cardstock and using Lawn Fawn clear ink and stamping that down, and then I'll use some Lawn Fawn white embossing powder, sprinkle that on, and then I will heat that up, and then we'll put on the second part of the sentiment, and that is from Sprinkled with Joy. And to line it up straight, I'm using the Lawn Fawn ruler, and it has about an 1/8 of an inch that can butt up against the side of my MISTI, and it makes lining these sentiments up real simple. So I'm just going to sprinkle on the white embossing powder, and I'll heat that up, and then our sentiment is all finished. So now we can start on our scenes, and I'm using the bowl and spoon from Baked with Love and just positioning where the mouse is going to be. He's so small, he needs to stand on the rim. So I'll stamp down the bowl, but I want to take off a little bit of the back rim so that I can get the spoon in there. And I will mask off the front of the bowl. That way I can stamp down the spoon so that it looks like it's inside the bowl. Mask that off, and then I can put this little mouse on the rim. So I want to make sure his feet are standing on there. And I'm stamping everything with Lawn Fawn's jet black ink. And then with my chamois, I'm just taking off the little skates so that his feet will be standing on the rim. Now, I'm sure he washed his hands, well, and his feet, since he's standing on the bowl. Now, to complete this one, I'm going to use a Copic multi-liner to add back in where I took a little of his feet off when I was taking off his skates, and then also to add back in the rim of the bowl. And we're on to the next little guy. Now he is going to be holding on to the flour for the cookies, and so he's got it on his back. So I needed to mask him off because he's in front, and the way I remember what to put the mask on is front first. Always stamp what you want in the front first. So in this case, the butter is in front of the mouse. So front first, I stamped the butter, masked that, and then stamped the mouse. So you can see he's in the back. And now the rolling pin will be in the front, so I'll mask that. And then the mouse, his little hand will be behind there, so he's second. And there, our scenes are all stamped, and I've got a couple of other things that I needed to stamp: the bag for the piping, and then an extra egg because the one with the butter needed a little something extra. So I'm starting to color, and I'll just color one of the mice so you can see they all kind of were colored the same. And I used cool grays, and I'm blending those out, and then I'm coming back in with a darker marker and just adding in the darkest shadows to give it a little more depth. And I really don't blend that out. So I'm giving them a little pink in their ears, nose, and cheeks, and then I blend that in the ear a little bit and on the cheek with the cool gray. and a little bit of warm gray for their tummies. Most of the cooking elements were brown, so they're all done in E30s. And so the spoon, and here is the flour sack, and I'm just putting in the lightest one, E30. And then the butter, of course, that's not brown. So that is a Y21 with a Y00 to brighten that up. And then I come in with a Y23 just to give it some darker shadow. The tip of the icing is metal, so that'll be a darker gray, and then the bag is white. So I'm just giving it some shadow with a cool 1 and cool 0. I'm trying to stay with similar colors everywhere, so the inside of this bowl is pink, and so that's an R20. And then I'm going to come in with the E's, so E30, to give it a little shadow in there. And then it's just a matter of darkening it up, because inside the bowl, as you get further inside, it's going to be a little darker, and that's all set. I'm coloring all of the scarves with an R24, and also the little accents like the handles on the rolling pin and the little rim of the bowl, or that little stripe on the bowl. And then I'll come in with the R29 and give it some shadow, and then blend that back in with the R24. So there's that bowl, and I'm trying to make it look curved by giving it shadow on both sides so the bowl looks round. And then here's the shadow on the rolling pin. And now I'm going to cut out my egg, and I'm fussy cutting this because everything else is stamped together, and I'm just trying to add it onto that butter, so I didn't want it to have a white rim. And now I'm coloring the backgrounds for each of them, and it's a BG10. And I'm just using little circles so that I don't have streaks from doing lines. But now I am putting in some shadow, so this is the BG11, and I am coming up kind of with lines so that I can get it up into the BG10. And then I will use the BG10 to blend that in. And I wanted to make it darker, so I used the BG23. And this is one of my favorite blends, kind of my solution, because it is a little bit lighter than the BG13, which doesn't blend so well for me with the BG11. So the BG23 has kind of been a save for that for me. And then I'm just blending it all back out with the BG11 and the BG10. And they're all done the same way, but there they all are. So now it's time to assemble the front, and I'm going to use my glue tube and put glue all around the edges of the Foursquare panel, and I will adhere that to a top folded 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card, and just make sure it's all lined up well and pressed down. And then I'll use the tape runner to add the panels. So there's the little guy with the bowl, the one with the flour, the one with the butter, and the one with the rolling pin. Now here comes that egg. I'm just going to glue that on top of the butter because he's very skilled in balancing things. And then here's the piping bag for the sentiment. Now that guy with the rolling pin, I don't know, is that like Tom and Jerry? Is he looks like he might whack somebody with that, but maybe he's not. He's just being helpful. All right, so here's the sentiment, and it comes from How You Been Christmas Cookie Add-on, and I'm taking that ruler again, and you can see how it just lines up so well with the side of the Misty. It kind of just sits in that edge, and then I have a straight sentiment. I love it. All right, I am using Lawn Fawn's Minty Fresh ink, and I know what you're saying. You're saying, But Kara, that's too light. You're not going to see it. Okay, I should have listened to you. But we move on to the mechanism. So this is the pivot, and I love it. So you just fold it on all the score lines. So you fold it in half, and then you find that X in the middle and fold on each of those. And if you fold it so that you use the bone folder, it gives it a real nice crease and easily goes into place. And just fold and crease all of that, and it's set to go. And this is the panel part, and I want to put the panel together to start so that when I'm stamping, I know exactly where I want to stamp everything. So I'm taking some strong, this is the double-sided tape, and I'm putting it on both of those tabs, and then I'm putting the tabs behind each other and adhering that down. And I'm just going to reinforce that by folding it. But I'm not going to fold everything yet because when I stamp, it's easier without the creases. So I've got my cookies and I'm beginning to stamp. And mask. And stamp. And mask and stamp. And mask and stamp, and I just keep going. So I'm trying to get the panel kind of filled, and I don't want to go off the edge because I'm gonna trim around that, and so I want full images. But I just keep going until we get to the end, and then it's time to color. There they are. On the coloring, all I'm doing is going around the baked cookie part with the 30s, the E30s, and this is 30, and I'll use 33, and just gonna blend that in just to give it the look of baked cookie, and some of them are behind others, so they're a little darker, and then just blend those out. And some edges are a little darker just because maybe they got a little darker in the oven. So I went around everything with that, and now I'm starting in on the icing, and all the trees will be green. And so I've got my YG21 and 23. I'm just blending that in just to give it a little shadow, a little depth. And all of the stars will be yellow, and I'm using the same yellows that I used for the butter. So the Y00, Y21, and a little Y23 as well. And the bells will all be blue-green. And so I'm just getting in on that fold, making sure that that's all covered. And then the BG 10, 11, and the 23. Just like on the backgrounds of the front of the card. Now the gingerbread boys will all be red, but I'm starting with an R22 because I don't know about you, but I can never get my red frosting really, really red. And I really don't know if I want to. I mean, all that red dye. So anyway, they're a little lighter. So the R22, R24, blend that back in with the R22. And now I'm coming in with a white gel pen. This is the Signo white gel pen, and giving the trees some ornaments and putting a little detail on the gingerbread boys just to give it a little extra detail. And there they all are. And I'm going to cut around all of the cookies. Now you don't need to do this part, but I just think it looks nice. But if you are not wanting to cut it all out, you don't have to. I still think it would look great. And I'm just making sure that I have enough image that it will still adhere well to the pivot mechanism. And then I am folding on all the score lines. And I'm going to take the bone folder and just crease those as well. Now the sides, the ones that I'm creasing right now, those are actually going to be folded forward. So there we go. And I'm creasing them that way. Now it's just very flexible. So this is going to go on the mechanism like this, and I want to get the really strong double-sided tape onto the two tabs of the mechanism. And so I'm putting on, I think, yeah, I have 3 pieces of 1/4 inch because I just want it to be real strong, because this is the only thing holding on that big panel. And then I'm putting double-sided tape on both sides of the triangle. So I have 3 strips on this side, and then I go ahead and put 3 strips on the other side. And this is the part that's going to be attached to the card. So you want to make sure that it is not going to come off, so double-sided tape works great for this. All right, it's all adhered, or ready to be adhered, and I'm going to pull off the release tape and put down that first panel, and then take off the release tape on the other side and put down that panel, and it's ready to go into the card. So I've got a little extra part where I cut away at the cookies, so I'm going to cut away at the tabs as well. Now the pivot is really simple to put into the card. All I'm doing is taking off the backing and then putting it directly on the fold and laying it down, and then I'm going to close my card, and when I open it, there it is. It's great. I love this thing. So there are the mice, and they made a lot of cookies. The sentiment actually turned out great. It's the aqua color I was looking for. You can't read it here, but it says peace, joy, love, and cookies. And whoever gets this card, they will be able to read it just fine. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this card. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye.